We are seeing new video this morning. Former President Trump attending a fundraiser just hours after a jury found him guilty on 34 counts in his hush money trial in New York.
His campaign immediately began fundraising after that verdict, telling supporters in an email the trial was rigged, even calling Trump a, quote, political prisoner.
And this morning, Trump is officially first ever U.S. president convicted on felony charges.
And that conviction has created a slew of questions. For one, will Trump still be able to run for president? And what happens next to him?
We do have team coverage for you this morning. Victor Jorges right outside Mar-a-Lago with reaction to the verdict. And Brianna Nesbral standing by as well with where it all goes from here.
Yeah, we want to begin, though, with Mike, who is at the live desk with more on the verdict. Also, Mike, what Trump had to say after this came out.
That's right. So breaking this down, it took jurors about a little more than 9 hours to come to their decision, and they found him guilty on all 34 counts, as we mentioned. This morning, in just a few hours, former President Trump slated to address the media outside Trump Tower in New York City. After court wrapped yesterday, he lashed out at the verdict, vowing to appeal.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. I'm a very innocent man, but the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people, and they know what happened here.
Prosecutors charged him falsifying business records in an attempt to cover up hush money payments he made to an adult film actress in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election. The charges do carry up to 4 years behind bars. However, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg did not say whether prosecutors would actually seek prison time. Now, the president is facing 3 other trials, as you know, including that classified documents trial in Fort Pierce, right on the Treasure Coast, Ashley.
All right, Mike, same time here. President Biden's campaign is now using the verdict as an opportunity to showcase the president as the only choice come November. He sent out a fundraising request moments after the jury's decision came down. In a post on X, President Biden also called attention to what's at stake in the 2024 presidential election, saying, quote, "There's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box." Governor Ron DeSantis also posting on social media saying today's verdict represents the culmination of a legal process that has been bent to the political will of the actors involved. A leftist prosecutor, a partisan judge, and a jury reflective of one of the most liberal enclaves in America, all in an effort to get Donald Trump.
As expected, some of the former president's biggest supporters, also a handful of opponents, gathered on the Southern Boulevard Bridge after that verdict. Victor Jorges joining us live there this morning with a recap. Victor, most were firm in their stance, not really swayed at all by any of this.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people are actually saying this verdict does nothing to their train of thought, making that decision when it comes to November. Now, we said a lot of people were here last night. 2 women are actually still here in support for the former president. They actually tell us they have not slept. They have been on this bridge all night. They're right now currently, they're playing music. They're standing there as you see them on your screen, kind of getting people when they're driving by to either horn or anything like that. So I can tell you the support has been pretty obvious here, and they say yesterday's verdict was unfair for a few reasons. For one, they believe it should not have taken place in New York City. They don't think the instructions to the jury were clear, and they also don't think those charges should have been upgraded to felonies. So let's go to some video here. I want to show you what we were looking at here yesterday. This was the scene on the bridge leading into Palm Beach. About 30 supporters of the former president and about 3 people that do not support him. They showed up here shortly after the news broke about the verdict being in. It's a similar sight we've seen here before, people with homemade signs and Trump 2024 merch. Now, most people here are in awe this happened to their candidate for the White House, while other people are calling this a fair trial. Take a listen.
Well, what I thought all along, I knew he was going to be, I knew this, I was ready, I knew. He's never had it fair since he got out of office, even before he got in office.
I was very excited and glad that justice had been served.
Yeah, so a couple of things remain true this morning, regardless of your view of this verdict. For one, like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people are not saying that this is, swaying them one way or another come November. And meantime, the former president could face up to 4 years in prison. Guys?
All right, Victor Jorges reporting live. Trump, now the first former president to be convicted on felony charges.
It's a battle he's already promised to fight. Let's go to Brianna Nesbral right now. Bree, we actually heard the word appeal come up almost immediately.
Yeah, Trump is expected to appeal. His lawyers can file a notice of appeal after his sentencing, but this appeals process would play out for many months, probably play out and extend beyond the November 5th election. Now, we're talking about the sentencing date. We know that's July 11th at 10 a.m. As the former president awaits his sentencing out of prison, he's able to speak freely with the press, able to travel, continue with his presidential campaign. But he's also required to sit in an interview with a probation officer for a pre-sentence report for the judge, who will be asked questions about his background, his criminal history, and his mental health. Now, his sentence, though, as we keep talking about, he could face probation or up to 4 years on each count in state prison.
Sitting here tonight and watching this unfold, I guess it's conceivable that this judge can sentence him to jail.
Now, we did speak with State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg. He thinks it's likely that the judge will sentence Trump to probation or house arrest. We also did ask him whether or not he'll be able to vote in the presidential election come November. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Even though if he's a convicted felon, I don't think that will take away his right to vote because he's going to be appealing this. And if he challenged it in state courts, I'm sure he'll be allowed to vote.
Now, this will all lead to Election Day. We did hear from the former president after the verdict. He did say the real verdict will come on November 5th by the people.
Bree, getting more into the details here of what comes next, can Trump still be elected president?
Well, in short, yes. The U.S. Constitution requires a U.S. president be at least 35 years of age, be born here in the United States, and have lived in the country for at least 14 years. So not only is the former president able to campaign, he can be elected.
All right, Brianna Nesbraw, a lot to come, in the days, weeks, months after this. Bree, thank you.
Let's go into that looming question here. The political future of the former president. Can he continue on this path to the White House? We spoke with a Florida Atlantic University political science professor, Dr. Kevin Wagner. He's an expert on polling and political behavior. He actually believes in the short term that this verdict is not likely to change the dynamics of the presidential race.
My suspicion is that for the supporters of the former president, they will see this as illegitimate, and for those that were generally opposed to him, they will see this as legitimate, and I think they will be reinforced in their positions, and in fact, in the short term, it might well in fact be motivational.
Okay, let's go long game here. Dr. Wagner says in the long run, that verdict could make a difference, especially in some of those swing battleground states. But he says it is too soon to tell if it will help, hurt, or have any effect at all. So many layers to this, so much more to come. You can read up on all of it, the historic verdict included, online and our WPTV app. Use the QR code there on your screen if you don't have it to download it for free.